The following program is a presentation of the Ohio School Boards Association.
Welcome to the Leading the Way podcast, where we bring you the voices shaping public education across Ohio. A big shout out to our sponsor, Lincoln Learning Solutions. They offer accredited K-12 digital curriculum and support schools with flexible content and expert training for educators in all learning environments. Hey everyone, it's OSBA Scott Gerfen, and today we're focusing on one of the most important ways school board members can make a difference, and that's advocacy. Advocacy is about ensuring the voices of our students, families, and communities are heard, not just locally, but at the state and national levels. It can seem overwhelming at first, but the truth is advocacy starts with simply sharing your story. We have two board members joining us today who are passionate about advocacy, Jocelyn Rhynard and Bill Ferguson, who recently traveled to the nation's capital with other school board members from across the country to participate in the Consortium of State School Boards Association's Federal Advocacy Conference. They met with lawmakers, represented Ohio's public schools, and brought home lessons about how every board member can play a role in shaping policies that impact our classrooms. So, Bill and Jocelyn, thank you so much for being here. Let's start by introducing yourselves and tell us about you and the communities that you serve. Bill?
All right, I'm Bill Ferguson. I'm a member of the Hamilton County Educational Service Center Governing Board and Great Oaks Career Campuses, which is our career tech system in Southwest Ohio, or one of them, I should say. We go from Western Cincinnati up to Wilmington, 4 campuses. My ESC work, we have every school district in Hamilton County, which is in the Cincinnati area. For those who might not realize, that's where Hamilton County is. And we have school districts even outside the county that we do work in. So if you're not familiar with an ESC, even as a board member, and many aren't, basically we provide a lot of special education services, professional development for teachers.
Right.
It can be physical therapy for kids. It can be hearing impaired kids. It can be nurses for school districts. We just provide a range of services, and basically we try to say yes to anything a district needs, because if one district needs something, there could be multiple districts that need the same service. And mental health's a big one, in fact, that comes to mind that we've gotten more into just in the last few years. And so when you have districts who come together and use an ESC, often they can share costs, and it's just a win-win for everybody.
And Jocelyn, well, I did just realize you guys are both from the Southwest region. And Jocelyn,
Southwest is best.
There you go. And Jocelyn, you are in Dayton, and tell us a little bit about you and your district.
Hi, Scott. Yes, thanks for having me. I'm Jocelyn Spencer Rhynard. I am a board member on the Dayton Board of Education, Dayton City Schools. We are a district of about 13,000 students. And I've been on the board for 8 years. I'm at the tail end of my second term. I am a mom of 4 kids, which is what brought me into this. In the beginning, I was an active parent volunteer and decided that I needed to be a part of more parent voice representation on the school board. And so I've been working there for 8 years, and I'm really, really proud of the work that we're doing up in Dayton. We're just a little bit north of where Bill is.
So you both recently took part in the Federal Advocacy Conference in D.C. What motivated you to get involved in this kind of advocacy work and represent Ohio on a national level? And Bill, we'll start with you.
Wow, that's a great question. I think I've done it now for 12 years. I've been a board member for 16 years. And I was asked to do it, and at first, it is a little nerve-wracking for some board members to, go to Washington, and I've been to Washington before and everything, but to actually go to congressional offices and advocate is just kind of a whole new thing for me 12 years ago. I'm much more comfortable now. Jocelyn, you might agree that after you do it a few years, you do get more comfortable. You feel like that these people who are representing us, they are representing us. And when you talk to them or their staff members, they're pleasant for the most part, and they listen. And, of course we all have disagreement on some of the issues, but what we like to do is find issues we can agree on. And there are a number of them. Yeah. Contrary to what you might see in media and everything, there's a number of issues that we all agree on, because in the end it's about the kids, and sometimes it sounds like a cliche, but it truly is about the future generation of America.
And Jocelyn, I don't think this was your first go around either in DC, right? With this group?
I've been doing this for 5 years, and my advocacy work started back in 2019 when I was asked to testify at a subcommittee for a state House bill, House Bill 110. And that's when I really, really learned how much work goes into the advocacy piece. This is all work that happens outside of our boardrooms, outside of our districts. And a lot of board members have the luck to have a little bit more time to put into this, to traveling to the State House and then traveling to DC. I've been going to DC for, I think this is my 5th year. I will echo what Bill said. I was terrified the first time I had a meeting with my member of Congress. I was sweaty. Luckily, I was there with somebody who had done this before. I think I stumbled over my words a whole bunch. But I really realized that the work that we're doing in DC is about relationship building. It's about starting a conversation. It's about bringing a story about what your district is and how it is an example of what we're advocating for, whether it's special education or child nutrition services. It's about telling a story and having a conversation. It's about more than just the time we go to DC. It's about touching base throughout the school year or throughout the academic year with the legislator locally as well too. I've had meetings with the representative and their staffer locally. Sometimes we meet with a member of Congress and sometimes we meet with a staffer. Sometimes it's really interesting to meet with the staffer. Legislators don't know everything and they never claim to be an expert in every field, but it's the staffers. Sometimes if you get the education staffer, you can really dig into a lot of the granular details of education policy that we're advocating for. I find it to be one of the highlights of the work that I do outside of Dayton. I call it my Super Bowl. And it's really, I find a lot of fulfillment in building those relationships, telling the stories and advocating for public districts, not just Dayton, but districts all across the state.
Bill, and you guys brought it up. I know this isn't your first go around in DC, but advocacy can sometimes feel intimidating for school board members. I've heard that from members who haven't done it before. Bill, what would you say to someone who feels hesitant about taking that first step?
Well, I first of all, I think you have to have an interest in it.
Yeah.
I think that, if you can't go there with a point of view and expect to come out changing minds or anything. So I think you have to realize who you're meeting with. You have to say, I was interested in history and government politics and as far back as elementary school. I just really enjoyed it. And I think if you have that innate interest, then you just keep up with the issues. You read a lot. You consume a lot of news. And then you kind of know when you go to Washington what's going on. And usually you get paired with somebody who has been there before, possibly, or certainly of like mind as far as being able to do the work and know the issues and things. And once you get in the office, I think is when you mostly get comfortable. I mean, if you're meeting with a staffer, you're meeting with someone who's usually like 20 or 30 some years old. And, in my case, I feel like I'm a grandfather to them. But, I think you start off with just some small talk, some, where you from kind of stuff. Are you from Ohio? Are you from Dayton? Are you from Hamilton County? Whatever. And just kind of make that connection in the beginning and then get more into the issues. And COSBA, the Consortium of State School Boards Association, of which OSBA is a member,
Yep.
They are the ones providing that 2-day conference, and they'll give you lots of great information. They'll tell you how to go to the offices, what to expect. And I think the advocacy work just then comes naturally. It's just good because what you're doing is good.
Jocelyn, you said something that resonated with me about telling your story. And would you say that is really how a board member can really just get started, is by telling their story to a lawmaker?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we advocated for of the legislative platform of COSBA when we were out in DC last week was fully funding the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which was passed in 1975. It was passed with the expectation that we would educate children with special needs and disabilities, and the federal government would cover up to 40% of those costs. Now I can say all of that and it can be very clinical and dry. But then I can talk about, listen, in Dayton Public Schools, we have 13,000 students. 20% of our students are on an IEP. These are some of the needs that they have. You know, we have high needs autism students. We have some children who have hearing impairment. And to really dig into what that means in a classroom setting. And, you know, I'm lucky that I'm a parent of a child who still attends Dayton Public Schools, so I have the parent perspective. It's the stories and it's the not just big picture, but telling the legislators what it's like small picture, giving them the opportunity to ask questions and opening up that conversation that really helps them understand the need for fully funding IDEA or other services that really benefit our district. It's just a really, really wonderful experience. And it gives board members an opportunity to dig into a lot of the details too that they might not have off the top of their head. I know more about special education than I would have otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's about telling the stories. And you know, it's like you have a coloring book. You've got the black and white picture in front of you, and it's our job as legislators to take the crayons and color in the detail and make it a beautiful picture for the legislators to understand.
Scott, if I could add something, I've done a little bit of this work for Career Tech, the Association for Career and Technical Education. When we take students, it's amazing the difference when you know, with COSBA, we're board members. We have 2 per congressional district in Ohio, and we go and we meet with our representative. And usually our senators will come and meet us as a group. When I've been out there with Great Oaks, we have like our superintendent and a couple of board members, and we'll take a student from each campus, and we have 4 campuses. And when they get in those rooms and start telling their stories,
right,
you know, they just get a whole new perspective of what education's about in this country. And so I just want to throw that in, that if you get a chance to take students, it's great too.
And what were some of the issues that you were focused on when you were there, Bill?
Well, Career Tech, Perkins, we'd like to see increase in that, and that helps. I know that Dayton is what's called a comprehensive school, and you have Career Tech within Dayton city schools. A lot of school districts belong to a Career Tech Career Tech system, I should say. There's 49 in Ohio. And so we have 36 feeder districts at Great Oaks. And so that was one. You know, you want to increase Perkins. IDEA that Jocelyn mentioned, that's another one. We've been advocating that for years, 40%. We're now, instead of going up, going down. I think we're at like 10, 12%, depending on how it's counted, that Congress is allotting for special education, which, you know, that's unacceptable. It's an unfunded mandate. You know, you have to, when you promise something, you have to fund it.
I want to ask you both, and Jocelyn, we can start with you. Was there a particular moment during this trip that really stuck with you? Maybe it was a meaningful conversation, a surprising interaction.
So I'm going to share 2 things. The first thing that I learned through the advocacy work is that the elected officials who represent us in DC, I have such high respect for the office, but they are regular people just like you and me too. Just like I am just a mom who decided to run for school board. People stop me in the grocery line. People text me all the time. You know, people stop me all the time and talk to me about school board stuff and Dayton Public Schools. And I don't have any high regard for myself. It's the work that I do, and I feel honored to do it. And, you know, when we're talking to the legislators, they are regular people just like you and I are, and they change. You know, I've met with, you know, we had different senators than when I started than we do now, and building those relationships. And if board members are nervous about starting this work, they can just remind themselves that, you know, it's interesting to just see that this is a really important office that I have a high amount of respect and regard for. But having these conversations is pretty easy if you realize that these are just regular people. And that was kind of one of the things that struck me this time. We had the opportunity to meet with Senator Husted. I've never met with him before.
Right.
And I was really grateful for the time he gave us to talk about education and to answer some of the questions that OSBA had prepared. It was a reminder to me that this is about long-term work. This is about building relationships with the offices, and then people might change within the office, but our work continues. The second story that I want to share is from last year, and I will never forget this. So if you're ever in DC and you're in the House Rep office buildings, there's tunnels between them and the Senate buildings. That way people can go in one building and then they can travel easily to another building. And I was in a tunnel. I was between meetings. To the side, I was wearing my little name tag, and our name tags are very conveniently shaped like the state of Ohio. I was standing to the side and I was sending some texts and getting ready for my next meeting. And somebody came up to me and he said, "Hey, are you from Ohio?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm from Ohio." He said, I was a student in Cincinnati years ago, and I heard that my old school board member, Eve Bolton, was here. Do you know where she is?" And I was like, "I can find out where your old," she was his teacher from years and years back. And he remembered her. He heard that she was in town. He saw me with my Ohio name tag, and he stopped and he said, "Can you help me find Eve Bolton?" So I did, and I texted her, and they were able to meet up, and she got to see the student that she hadn't seen in 10 years. And it was just really incredible to see that connection that was made. And that always helps when you're building the relationship with member of Congress offices too, to say, "Hey, I ran into this person, they're a staffer in a different office," and building those connections. Making sure that they understand that we are real people with connections to their community, and it made Eve Bolton really, really happy. I'll never forget how happy that made her.
Yeah, and Eve is my partner in District 1, and she was thrilled. She was absolutely thrilled, and I believe it might have been around the same time that we were going to the congressman's office, because I think he came up there as well, and they were hugging each other and stuff. It was really a neat moment. Yeah. Yep.
How about you, Bill? Anything that stood out for you, similar to Jocelyn's?
I was thinking about that. It's less personal than it is just being there. I mean, it's really just a cool experience. And as we both said, the first couple of years, you're kind of nervous about and all, but that's where you just listen a lot, and you let your partner, who's probably got some experience, kind of let them kind of lead some things. Yeah. I used to prepare notes all the time, but then you start like you said something about being clinical. You start reading your notes. It's like, no, this doesn't work. So it's just having a conversation with somebody.
Right.
But being in DC, again, I have great respect for the people who run for those offices. I mean, we sit back and listen to some of their sound bites and all, and go, really, I think that's more their sound bites. I think that the people that run for those offices do care about things, and sometimes you just need to make them a person like you. And when they talk to you like a person, they're different people. They really are. And like that was the first time for Senator Houston for all of us, because he just got appointed early this year. Yeah. And I think he's drinking from a fire hose. I mean, just like us in our first few years, Senator Houston. At the time last year, Senator Vance. I mean, Senator Brown had, a number of years of experience. But the guys who are coming in, or guys and gals who are coming in that first year, I mean, it's tough, And then they're going around meeting with school board members and, firefighters and, some other trade group, maybe plumbers, whoever. They all want their attention, including us. And so it's great when we get it.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to hear one thing from each of you. What's the most important message you hope our listeners here will take away from your experience in the nation's capital last week? Bill?
The old Nike, just do it. If you feel like you have a desire to interact with your congressional members or your senators, any inclination at all. Again, if you have a history, government, politics, interest. Like I said, mine goes way back. My dad was a member of our little village's Board of Public Affairs, so it's just neat to become a public servant and advocate for again our next generation. I mean, that's what it's all about. And so I would say, understand you might be a little nervous at first, but you have a whole group of people around you, including OSBA. Your legislative folks are great in helping us, and we usually have a couple meetings during the year, either by Zoom or maybe at Capitol Conference or something. But get involved. Just do it, because if you feel that inclination, you'll be fine.
And Jocelyn, how about you?
Well, I would encourage school board members to reach out and build relationships with legislators in the Ohio State House in DC, regardless of whether they are official delegates of the federal legislative advocacy group or not. I never realized until I became a school board member 8 years ago, how much of our job is dictated by the laws, by the policy, by the mandates at the state and the federal level. And once I really truly understood how much of that guides our work and how much I think things need to change in some areas. And I, became involved and I started talking with legislators. I now, talk regularly with my area legislators in the Ohio State House, and they'll call me if they have questions. It's a really, really, really important and underrated part of the job that we do, because it's not always in our cities. And the work that we do is not always in our boardrooms and in our cities or in our counties. It's making the relationships and having the conversations. There's so much that they don't know about education, and I believe it's my responsibility to be that resource for them, reach out to them if there's an issue, or I would like to be the person that they call if they have a question. It's really important. We know what education is like in our district. We know our districts, we know our classrooms, we know our teachers, we know our staff. And a lot of our legislators, they just don't have that information. And so if we reach out and we build those relationships, we can help influence the way that legislation is shaped, and we can hopefully make the state of public education a little bit better than when we came in.
Well, Jocelyn and Bill, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And thank you again for what you do for your communities. To our listeners, remember that strong schools need strong voices. Whether you're attending a school board meeting, writing to a lawmaker, or traveling to DC, your voice matters, and together we can make a difference for every student in Ohio.